Demonstrative pronouns and adjectives. Okay, we've just looked at personal pronouns. That was the first type of the 5 types of pronouns I gave you in the first module in this chapter. And then after that I gave you, remember I talked about, there was personal, then there was demonstrative, and then interrogative, indefinite, and relative. These are the demonstratives. So these are words that point out. Now, we have 2 types of demonstratives. We have pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, and demonstrative adjectives. I think the trickiest thing about this module and the next, basically the trickiest thing about this chapter, is to get this distinction between pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, and demonstrative adjectives. And I'll tell you what the key is right now. The key is that, if you remember this, you'll have it straight. The key is that demonstrative pronouns do not have the article. Okay? And demonstrative adjectives always have the article. If you remember that, you'll keep this straight. In the next module, I'll go through some sentences to show you both examples and play them off each other so you can get the difference. Right now, what I want to do is deal with the morphology, look at what they are, the demonstrative pronouns, and this part's not too difficult. There's actually only 3 words you have to memorize, 3 new ones. The other forms we've already seen, because there's some duplication of forms here. So let's look first of all at the near demonstratives. We have, I'll put near up here. Remember we have near and far, or near and remote. The near ones are this and these. The far ones would be that and those, singular and plural. So, I guess the other thing I should say is that demonstratives do not have person. Personal pronouns have person. They have person, gender, number, which makes sense. If they're personal, they're going to have person. Demonstratives don't have person, and so we don't have our 3 groups. Remember, with our verbs and with our personal pronouns, we had third person, 2 sets because different genders, and we had second person and 2 genders, and then we had first person down here. Demonstratives are easier. We just have 1 set. So let's put our masculine. We'll say masculine, feminine, and we have singular, plural, singular and plural. Okay. Now, the near demonstrative, masculine singular near demonstrative is ze. It's written like this. Ze. The near demonstrative for the feminine, singular, is zot. And it is spelled like this. Now you have an aleph in here. And you can't hear the aleph, so you just got to know it's there. Don't forget that aleph. Ze and zot. And then in the plural, we have ele. It's a common plural. No distinction in gender. So we have a with the dagesh forte there, a le. So ze, zot, ele. Just memorize those. These are the 3 words you need to memorize in this module. I'll put a little M here. And we'll build on this, but there's no really new forms after this. Ze, zot, ele. Don't forget the aleph there. Now, let us... Oh, I should have put that there afterwards, because I want to copy this now. Oh well. Copy it and now... and get rid of it. Let's duplicate these. Pull them down here. Get rid of my little green bit. And let's put a line through here. Let me change colors. Okay. These are our near demonstrative pronouns. I'm going to turn these into our near demonstrative adjectives. And the way we do that is simply by adding the article. Now, the article is our hey. Remember, article is 3 parts. We have our hey, we have our patach, and we have our dagesh forte, doubling the first letter of the first letter of the next word. So this isn't a guttural, so there's no reason why we should have anything odd. You just put it on normally. Likewise here. So we have hazeh, hazot. These are now adjectives. I'll show how they're used in the next module, but just know for now they're adjectives. And here, if we add the article here, well, let's see. Going to put a dagesh here. Can't do that. Okay. So we have, with aleph, we have compensatory lengthening, remember? And the way to remember this as a mnemonic, this is not what's happening phonetically, obviously. Our little dagesh forte here is going to roll down here, and it's going to drop right there, and it's going to turn into a long A. Comments. Okay, so we have compensatory lengthening here. If we add our article, if we make these definite, add our article, then we have adjectives. Adjectives. And if we don't add it, if they're without, we have pronouns. Okay? That's the difference here. Ze, zot, ele. Those are our near demonstratives. And all you have to do is memorize these. You don't have to memorize these. You know, you just add the hey. So just 3 things. Let's look at our far demonstratives. And again, we have no gender, or we have no person. So we just have masculine and feminine, same basic grid. So let's do this again here, masculine and feminine. And we have singular. Let's see, I want to kind of squeeze this in here. Okay, now, Hebrew really in a way doesn't have demonstrative pronouns. What it does is it borrows the independent personal pronouns that we've already seen, the third person independent personal pronouns. So we have who. Who is used here. Let's make this less square. So who can be the independent personal pronoun meaning he in English, but it can also mean that as a pronoun, that house. And likewise, we have the feminine form, he is she, remember in Hebrew, he is she. So he is she for the personal, independent personal pronoun, but it can also mean that when you're speaking about a feminine article or a feminine object or whatever that you want to say that about is far. If that made any sense. It's hard to say these things when you're using the words you're trying to explain. And then for the far, or the plural rather, we have heim. So we borrowed that. And for the feminine, we actually don't use hein for the feminine in demonstrative. We only use heina. Should I write it there or write it here? Let me write it here. So this was the long form. Remember the long form that I told you don't have to memorize, or it's not that efficient to memorize? Well, in the demonstratives, it's the only form that they use for the feminine, so I guess it's something we need to know. And you can also use the long form in the masculine as well. So, heima, let me write that down as well. But you can also use the short form. So in the masculine plural, you can use the short form or the long form. In the feminine plural, you only use the long form. So these are our pronouns. And again, just like in the near demonstratives, we distinguish pronouns and adjectives by adding the article. So let me copy this. Missed one little piece, I'll put it back on. So missed my little accent there. Okay. And let's split it. Change to, I think I used yellow before. So if we add the article to these, we'll turn them into adjectives. So how do you add the article? Well, we put our ha on there. And if you go back to your article chart, you'll see that, okay, this, you can't double these, we know that. And so what we have here is implied doubling. Likewise, we have implied doubling here. I guess I got to move this over a little bit. Get some room. Oh, let's move these over too. And on this side, in the plurals, what you get is compensatory lengthening with the article. But whatever, that's not that important. You'll recognize this as the article, whether it has the kamet or whether it has the patach. The important thing here is that if you have the article on these, then you have an adjective. Okay, I'll put adjective here. Just like with our near demonstratives. And without the article, you have a pronoun. Okay. So, what we have here, it's especially confusing with these here, because who can function in three different ways. One, it can be an independent personal pronoun, meaning he, which is what we saw in the last module. It can also be a demonstrative pronoun, which is what we have right here. It can also be a demonstrative adjective, which is what we have right here. So you need to get straight the difference between personal pronouns and demonstratives, and then within demonstratives, you need to get straight the difference between pronouns and adjectives. Pronouns have no article, adjectives do. Now I'll go over this in the next module. I'll look at some sentences, and hopefully it should clear things up. But what you need to memorize here for this is really these ones here, your near demonstratives, ze, zot, ele. And then remember that your far demonstratives are borrowed from your independent personal pronouns. And I suppose you need to know these because it only uses the long form for the feminine.